Well, welcome everybody to another segment of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis. Once again from the flight deck, and of course that means some very smart talk radio is in your future, and this segment certainly no exception. I've been looking forward to this one. We're going to be talking to Brenda Dickson, well known for those of you that used to follow Young and Restless. Maybe you still do. For many years, she was the affable, somewhat devious, somewhat vixen Jill Abbott. We also know her. She was former Miss California. She's also been seen numerous other places in film and on the small screen as well. We are very happy to have her here. Brenda Dickson, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, Warner. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm good. Like I told you off the air, having been a total Y&R fan in college, I feel like I'm talking either to an old girlfriend or at least somebody I know. But anyway, let's do this for those that are not familiar with your career. And by the way, culminating in the release of a book here called My True Hidden Hollywood Story, which we will explore in detail here. But Brenda, you have a long history in Tinseltown. Share with our Lewis at Large listeners, if you would, a little bit about your early background and how you got into acting in the first place.
Well, I was discovered when I was surfing on the beach as a young girl. I was 17. A photographer took some pictures of me, and without my knowledge, he entered them into the World Beauty Pageant. And before I knew it, they were calling me, and I ran for Miss California World, and I won. And then I ran for Miss USA World, and I won Miss Photogenic, and that's when the phone started ringing.
Wow.
And Lucille Ball called me, and numerous producers called me, and I got a job, a musical, and that was the beginning of my career. I studied with Lee Strasberg. I got real serious after that, and studied with Lee and started working, got my SAG card. And I worked nonstop until I got The Young and the Restless, and then I worked on that show for 12 years. So I was the first original Jill. I was on for 7 years. I took a hiatus when I married for 3.5 years, and during that time, the ratings fell 6 points. Never came back up. For once, they were weak. They were number 2, and then they fell back to 6. But they actually never came back up. And so when I came back to the show to reprise my role, she had changed. She was a villainess, which was great. It was so much fun. But William Bell, the producer and creator of the show, wanted me to be the sweet girl that I used to be when I started the show. And then a big fight ensued because the ratings flew back up immediately, the 6 points, and then they flew up another 3 points upon my return. And so there was this big war going on over my character. And 2 producers wanted me to play an opposite character. One wanted me sweet, one wanted me a villainous. And it was a real battle, and I worked there for 4 years fighting this battle. And of course, I became a villainous. And I finally gave my resignation unless they did a breakdown of the character so I could no longer go through this big fight. And William Bell wouldn't do it. And so I said, okay, then I'm leaving. You have my notice. This was a year before my contract was up. And he ended up firing me in one day, like just several weeks before my contract was up. It was against the law, and putting someone else in my place to destroy my reputation because he knew the ratings would fall. And they did. They fell hard. They fell 9 points when I left. And so he decided to blacklist me. And the obsession with this man to keep me out of Hollywood went into my personal divorces, which were multi-million-dollar divorces. He got involved in my divorce cases through various different mafia cartel judges and attorneys. And I'm still involved in the litigation to get my property back from my last divorce in California right now. But it's a fascinating book. It's really a memoir of me in Hollywood and the various different people that I worked with before the Y&R, like Anne Margaret and Bob Hope and William Shatner and Priscilla Presley and various people in my acting classes. And I just take the audience through Hollywood, and it's a fascinating story.
Brenda, when you did you do any acting at all in high school? Or again, what's interesting to me is you're surfing, somebody could be very easily stalking you, so to speak. They take pictures, but in this case, they were real. They weren't giving you a line, were they?
No, it was real, and he didn't tell me he was entering me into the pageant. And then I got a job from the pageant, and it was a musical where I had to sing and I had to dance, which I'd never done before. And it was called Daisy May and Little Abner's something review.
Yep.
I can't remember the name. And so I had to cry at one point in the stage play, and real tears came out of my eyes. And this manager wanted to sign me. He thought I reminded him of Anne Margaret. And I said no, because it was a 7-year contract. But I was making like Paramount to $1,000 a week, and I thought, wow, this is really good money. And so I started studying with Lee, and then I immediately started working. One of my teachers became a producer, and I began working. So it was just a direction. It's like someone came into my life and changed the direction of my life in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And then I was on this ride, and it never stopped, really.
So, Brenda, I'm curious, the morning that you went out to surf, what were you doing? What was your job on that day? What were you doing?
Ditching school.
Oh, good for you. Okay, good girl. Good girl.
High school.
All right, so the real Jill Abbott really was ditching school in real life, too. That's good.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you are again, you have had tremendous experience. Obviously, your talent was seen early on. I want to take a little bit of a diversion. I want to talk about the book because there are some fairly juicy stories in this book. You're very, very candid about some of the relationships that you've had with some people well-known and not so well-known. But I'm curious, just as from a professional point of view, if you can step away from Y&R and just look at the entire genre of soap operas in general. To you, if, in your opinion, as someone that was on one of the most popular and played one of the most popular characters, are the soap operas of 2013, do they match storyline for storyline what you experienced years ago, or what's different about them, and is the role of the soap opera changed?
Yes. In fact, my firing was the pinnacle move of the downfall of daytime television. Because our show had 11 million viewers when I was working on it, 11 million, and when I left, there were 3. And really, this could have been fixed, by the way, but it was the wheels were in action of the Bell family overtaking The Young and the Restless. They had sold it to the CBS stockholders, so they made no money off the rating points. You have to understand this. This is what happened, so they began to just clear out the talent on the show. And I'm talking not only acting talent, such as myself and Terry Lester, and there were many actors that left during that time, but the writers and producers, they replaced the great writers with Andrea Bell, who was a relative of the Bells. And suddenly the daughter, Bell's daughter, Laura Lee Bell, was the star of the show, and she'd had no acting lessons. And it just became utterly ridiculous. And they overtook the show with their family and their friends to protect them from any other people coming in like they did with the villainous thing, and because they were overtaking the show. So it was a power struggle, and so they overtook the entire show, and by doing that, the ratings fell drastically, and they never came back up. They came back up to 4, and at one point they were 5 million from 11, and now I think they're around 4 million. And I do think that probably other shows, people switched off their TV sets when I was gone. They just turned them off, and they never turned them back on. And I think they just got sick of their favorite characters being taken off, not just that show, but other shows that were doing the same thing, just padding their own family and friends. And that's what happened to daytime television. It wasn't that people didn't want to watch it anymore. They just turned it off. They got sick of it. The bad plots, the mediocre plots, the mediocre acting, they just turned off their TV sets and watched something else. And that really was the downfall of daytime television and the changes that happened.
Well, I do remember a lot of members of that cast did leave, either written off or for whatever reason they left.
Pushed out of their roles. Actually, it's a fascinating book because it tells how we were pushed out of our roles and what they did behind the scenes to get rid of us, like Terry Lester, myself, Eileen Davison left a year before I did. Now, she goes back and forth on there, and nobody will tell the truth of what's happening behind the scenes on there but me, because I was blacklisted and because I sued Bell Bell. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but just, my attorney actually worked for him. And so they hid the entire story of what they did to me. It's all been hidden because my attorney worked for Bell Bell.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating story. It's not just about the young and the restless. I mean, it takes you through Hollywood and through all of my potential husbands to be.
Right. I like the potential husbands. Good line.
Those were my boyfriends at the time, and they were famous. My boyfriends were famous, so there's a love interest in every chapter in the book with me and Mike Nader, who did Dynasty. It was Joan Collins' boyfriend, and then he was Susan Lucci's boyfriend when he went to All My Children. Mike Nader and I had a love affair when we did a play, and I take you through that play. And then Richard Thomas and I had a love affair. We had the same agent. We were staying at my agent's house. And I sort of take you into Hollywood because my agent was one of the most famous agents in Hollywood. He had Marlene Dietrich, and he had Cary Grant, and he had Diane Cannon, who he introduced to Cary Grant. And so I take you through Hollywood, and I introduce you to him, and I take you into his house and what life was like back then, and me dating Richard Thomas while he was doing the Waltons, and I soon got The Young and the Restless, and I was just a kid, too. And I dated Barry Goldwater Jr. when I was Miss California. I take you into the White House. I take you into Vietnam when I went to the war to entertain the troops with Bob Hope and Anne Margaret and Jim Nabors. And then I went back with Johnny Grant. And it's just a fascinating Hollywood story, and you can buy it on my website. It's selling like wildfire on www.brendadixon.com, Dickson. And you can just view my website and see Shirley Jones has reviewed the book, and she loves the book, and the woman who was on The Nanny, Renee Taylor, the mother, she's reviewed the book. Shirley's an Oscar winner, and Renee is an Emmy winner. And the book is just selling like wildfire. I'm just so thrilled because people are interested in Hollywood. And it's really a Hollywood story. It goes all throughout Hollywood. And then it goes into the corrupt court system and what happened to me, where they took millions of dollars of my money, which I'm trying to retrieve right now in the California court. Right. So it's a very fascinating story, and I think it at the end will be a movie. I mean, I've had one movie offer to buy the script early on, but I'm waiting until I get the book August 3rd. And so people have pre-ordered the book, and I'm signing the pre-orders and sending a 5x7 color picture. So if somebody's out there and they're a fan of mine and they want an autograph book, they should order it now on my website, because after that we go into fulfillment, and I start going on national television. And so that'll just be, they'll just be sending out the books like that. Got it.
Hey, if you just joined us again, yours truly, Warner Lewis, from the flight deck here of Lewis at Large Radio, in the midst of some smart talk radio with very talented Hollywood actress Brenda Dickson, many years on Young and the Restless as Jill Abbott. She started that role. She's also seen her other places. We're talking today as well about a new release called My True Hidden Hollywood Story. Takes you into Hollywood, takes you behind the scenes at soap operas, takes you into the bedroom, so to speak. And just, I'm curious, Brenda, when you were writing this, some people will say, well, there's a shameless part of that. And other people will say, no, it really takes a lot of guts and fortitude to talk frankly about past relationships, particularly people that are well known. I'm curious as to the reaction you've gotten from sort of the people that you're telling stories about.
Well, I haven't heard from them yet.
Not yet, okay.
And the book just comes out, the hard copy I get
on the 3rd.
And of course, I'm going to send Barry Goldwater Jr. a copy, and I'm going to send Richard Thomas a copy. But I really love these men. Yeah. So, I have nothing but nice things to say about our relationships. And so they were people really that I had considered some of them marrying.
Yeah.
So they're love stories. It's romantic. It's not just,
Tell all.
talking about it's a relationship that I had with these men. They just happen to be famous. That's all.
Brenda,
there was Fred Siegel, who is the store retailer, the clothier, and just so many. Let's see, who else would they know? Ernest Thompson, who wrote On Golden Pond.
Yep.
I was dating while he was writing that, and then he won the Academy Award for that. And they're just different men in my life in Hollywood that I dated during the time I was going through my Hollywood period as an actress. And I ended up marrying a doctor and a lawyer. So,
okay.
What can I say?
Good choices. Hey, Brenda, I'm curious, again, the Bell family were up at some point pretty influential and pretty powerful, if nothing else, among television circles. Why do you think things changed for them and they turned around and acted the way they did? What, in your opinion, what happened?
Well, it was Bell.
Yeah.
I think first of all, there was some sexual harassment in the beginning of the book that you'll read about. And I think he felt that he owned me. Now, this is not an uncommon problem in Hollywood. Various women like Valerie Harper, like Farrah Fawcett, like Raquel Welch, the girl who played Susan Sugarbaker, I forget her name. There are so many strong women that have had to sue. Susan Summers had problems too. Now, the difference between them and me is my attorney actually worked for Bell. That was all hidden. And when I found out that he blacklisted me, my press agent, Joanne Geffen, sent me to William Morris Agency to get an agent because my agent had had a heart attack and died. And the answer back from them is, we're not going to take her because we called Bell. And he said there was a problem with her firing. And that was the beginning of me understanding that this man had blacklisted me all throughout Hollywood. So no agent in Hollywood would take me, and he was extremely powerful because he had 2 series on the air, and he could hire all these actors and producers and writers and directors, which he went through like water. And so they weren't going to cross William Bell. And so I sued him, but my attorney actually worked for him and didn't tell me. And they drug out that lawsuit for 3 years. And they said do no interviews, so the audience didn't know what happened to me. And then I found out about the fraud of Mike Shelley, my attorney, working for Columbia Pictures. He had an office over there, and he actually worked for The Young and the Restless and CBS, handled all the below-the-line people. And then I'm not going to tell you everything that happened, but he did it because the ratings fell so deeply. And he thought he would blacklist me, and he thought he would get away with it. And then I sued him. And but Alfred Hitchcock did this to Tippi Hedren. This is a common Hollywood story. It is not an uncommon Hollywood story of producers thinking that they own someone, especially when there's sexual harassment involved.
Going through a tough period like that, where here you're young, you're sort of bright-eyed and anxious to get started, you land an important role on a very popular soap, and it ends I could have worked
anywhere in Hollywood,
right?
Anywhere in Hollywood. I was so beautiful and so talented, and I was the highest-paid woman, and the ratings were undisputed. That I brought them in, and then they left when I left. So. He definitely did not want my face to go to another show, on any show at all, because they had recast me. If I went to another daytime show, all of those ratings would go to that show. And if I went to a nighttime show, they would see my face and remember me and drop him completely and probably would have canceled the show. Okay, so this is how they do it. This is, in Hollywood, it's like, this is how they are. It's cutthroat. It is like, he survived this way, and he kept the whole thing hidden. And I married an attorney, finally, and he took me to Hawaii, and I was over in Hawaii for 11 years. And then when I went through my divorce to come back, I still had power because somebody had released a film that I wrote, produced, and directed called Welcome to My Home. And that film garnered 3 million viewers at a time when that's all they had was 3 million viewers.
Right.
And that was like in 2009 1989 that was released. So it wasn't like I had disappeared or I'd lost any of my power ever. Nobody ever got over it. And so he continued to blacklist me. So it was just a nightmare with William Bell and his family, who remained in my personal divorces. And if I were to ever come back to Hollywood, I would be penniless. And that is how they arranged it. And now I'm unraveling this in the California court. It's been a long trek and journey because there was about $15 million in both of our divorce settlements. To my first husband they got involved with, to my second husband they got involved with. So it's a fascinating story.
Well, I'm curious as to the way you describe this. You're grumpy about it, but you don't seem bitter about it. And I'm curious, would you ever consider going back again to act again? Is that something you would like to do?
I think I probably will go back to acting. Right now, I've just gotten out of this mess to some degree.
Right.
Financially, I got some money in a phony baloney trial in 2011, but not my half of the property, which I'm going after now. But I think I may go back to acting because this book has really put the spotlight on me. And it's also really selling. So, and then there's the open door probably for me that's about to open bigger than I ever thought, to actually having this film produced and made, My True Hidden Hollywood Story, because it is a film. I wrote it like a film. I wrote dialogue in it and everything. And so I think it will be a film, and I think I will be involved in the film in some way. So, yes, I think I probably will go back to acting.
Well,
I'm still in court now, but that should be over pretty soon.
Yeah, well, you're sort of the classic, at least the beginning Hollywood story. Pretty active, alive, energetic. You catch a great break. Even with the difficult times that you experienced, what kind of advice would you give to a young actress or actor, for that matter, that wants to go to Hollywood, that feels that's their calling? What do you tell them?
Well, actually, they should read my book, because the funny thing about the book, and this was like the law of unintended consequences, I didn't mean for it to be like a roadmap as to how to get into Hollywood and then how to protect yourself if you get in a position like I was in. But it turned out to be that way. So it really tells an inspiring actor or actress how to get in the business, how to make it work for you, and how to actually get a career. And then if you run up against something that I've ran into, you can actually be aware that this is going to happen and protect yourself. So it's a really good book for actors and actresses. I just did a little film. I put it on my website, www.brendadixon.com, for actors, to help actors get in the business and understand the business and understand how to get a job and get going with your career. So that book, it really helps actors, too, who want to get in the business. So it's a great book that way, and a lot of actors have bought the book, beginning actors.
Well, we have...
And also actresses like Shirley Jones and Renee Taylor. I mean, because they've all been through it on some level. This just goes on. You know, this stuff in the background, the stuff that goes on that I write about, really does go on. I mean, it goes on all the time.
Well, I think there's probably maybe, and you're sort of living proof of this, if you're pretty and talented in Hollywood, you can be a target. And for whatever reason.
A target.
Yeah. Anyway, well, listen, I would love to continue. We're running out of time here. The work, again, My True Hidden Hollywood Story, by Brenda Dickson, talented actress, many years. You knew her as Jill Abbott on Young and the Restless. A sort of a startling expose in some ways, but also a very truthful look and candid look at her life in Hollywood, the good, the bad, and the ugly from time to time. It is published by Blue Boulevard Publications. But Brenda, again, if you would share with our listeners how they can get a copy of the book and find out more just about Brenda Dickson.
Okay, well, the book actually is being sold on Amazon. All of the e-books are selling. That would be Kindle, all of the iBooks, and you can order them on my website, www.brendadixon.com, and you can read some of the reviews, and you can look at some of the films that I've done talking about the book, although I haven't been on national television yet. And if you want to order the hard copy, the pre-order, it's going to be out in just a few days. So you can have that, and you can have an autographed copy. But you can learn a lot about the book. And if you have like a Kindle, a Nook, or an iPad or a phone, it's on the Tunes. I mean, it's everywhere. So you can buy it just anywhere. And it's called My True Hidden Hollywood Story. But my website is the best place to purchase it on www.BrendaDickson.com.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Good luck to you. Good luck with the book. I'd say I will know you when, but we've known you when for many, many years, and look forward to future success. Would love to have you back on here again, maybe when the movie's released. How about that?
Yeah, that would be fun, Warner. We'll talk about the movie when it's released, okay?
Yep.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.
Good. Wonderful. One of Hollywood's true gems, Brenda Dickson. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.